Building this project right here is like the most massive game of chess that I could imagine. I have to make a move, think through all to the end result of that move I make, and see how it affects everything around it. And sometimes I have to back up a little bit. So your battery, I ended up putting it on this side over here. I had it stuck the frame rail there, and I started working on that, but then I wanted to make sure that I had enough for that fuel field to work on this side. Well, as I started laying that out and laying out the exhaust and how the independent rear suspension, the exhaust comes through it, and how long the tube's going to be, and I was concerned about the fill rate and all that, I decided it'd be best just to take it off that frame rail, move it over here. Luckily, I hadn't fabricated all the top in the box. But in doing so, I was able to use the original Explorer fill tube. I just had to cut it and change the timing on it a little bit, and then add just a little bit to it, and it comes right out up right to this, and that's going to work like a champ. Cut the actual neck where the fuel fill hose goes into it, and got that vent off of there, so it has a vent return. So they use a kind of 1-inch line to fill, but they have like a 3/8 line that comes up that's its vent. And I hope the fill rate on this one is good, because it's honored to have one that you have to keep stopping, and keep my fingers crossed this one won't be like this. I've got a good fall through it. I'm using the original Explorer stuff. I'm trying to do everything to make that work good. So I'll show you that in a second. And then over here, I'm working on your battery and how that's going to work. And with the battery being over here, your supply lines are up there on this side of the engine. So my battery cables will be able to run right up this frame rail. So I hated to move this over. I always like to keep the fuel fill on the driver's side, because it's just easier when you pull up the gas pump. You open the door, walk around, there's your fill. But it's going to benefit huge having it over here where it was on the Explorer. And you drive Explorer so much, you've had so many of them, still have them, you'll be used to where the fuel fill is. So let me give you a closer look at what I've got right here. Side, you see I've still got this plate loose, but I've got all that pretty much ready to go, and a grommet and the fill. You'll just have a little bit of hose right there, and then that's your air vent for as it fills up, and air comes out there, and we'll have this cap sealed, and that looks nice. And then I'll have a little cover over that comes up just like it did on the other side. Let me grab that right quick. So this piece did go on the other side, and that little spot right there is what covered that. So I'll figure out some way to cut that off and then turn that up, or remake this piece or something, and have the same thing over there. And I left this piece loose. I've got it ready to tack in and stuff, but I still want to do some work in behind there, so I'll wait and do it last. And I built you a little frame around. And then over here is where your battery's going to be. I've got the tray down in there, and this is the door I'm making. I'm just trying to think out how this panel here, this inner panel, is going to fit and how tight it is. And we're going to have insulation behind there, so I'm going to have to calculate that in so that this door will come off. So I'm going to try to make this door where it comes kind of out and just up and off, and then your battery will be right in there. Let me set your battery in there and show you kind of how that looks. Alright, there it is with your battery in there, and that's going to work out nice. Little door I've got right here. As I go along here, I'm gonna probably design some type of latch, sheet metal it, make it where maybe it's cut that out and put the latch down in there a little bit, and then have it maybe pin out on both sides so that it'll latch down in here. I've added for a gasket in here, so this has all been mocked up so that it has a gasket. I'm actually using your heat shield stuff because I can weld over it, and that'll be the thickness of your gasket, then the thickness to the frame, and then the thickness of the sheet metal, and it'll be back to level. And this thing will just remove and come completely off once I get done with it. I'm trying to put as little metal in it as possible because I don't want to get real heavy, but so far so good on that. Now I've got your little hinge pins. I've made these little hinge pins and got those welded in place. I lucked out. I welded them. They were in the exact location within, I mean, just exact, because I've got your foam pieces in there. They're not foam, but they're your pieces of heat shield. It's about as thick as the foam that I'm going to use in place there. And then when this goes in, these just hook and lock, and that's going to allow it to come up and away from the panel. So that's going to fix my, now since I don't know the clearances there, that's pretty much going to fix that, and makes it where it gets completely out of the way, so it's easier to get that battery in out of there. And once I get it a little bit more laid out here, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do about a latch. Try something simple, easy that sits down in there. Now the piece that I got from Tom, they were full length right here, and I was going to use it where the gas field is, but now they've moved all that, and I hate to lose all the time and effort in making these because it's got this bead in it and the front already fits and a lot going on there. I'm going to have to fill this hole in it. So I'm going to stop on that, and I found another piece of 20 gauge, and I'm going to cut that out and put that little form in there and just cover that and use this piece. Then I'll shear that off and then make this part of the door there, and this will come off with it. Probably cut a hole in it and put a little recess in here and have some type of little turn latch or something like that in it. But let me get this piece fabricated in place, show you what that looks like, and then I'll start seeing about attaching to the door and laying out the latch. It didn't take too long. So I made a little piece to fit in that spot there so we could reuse this piece. And now this will fit on my door, and then I'll cut the end of it off at the end of the door and put my little spot in there to pull it out. I've changed my mind. I may use a ball and spring type deal so that that'll snap down, and all you got to do is unsnap it. I think that might be a lot easier to deal with. So if I can get one that I feel comfortable that's strong enough to hold that seal down tight, that'll be the determining factor on the snap in. If not, I'll do a latch. So that's subject to change. So let me get this piece put on there and get the top of this done, and then we'll about have this battery thing wrapped up. All right, I had an idea on doing this latch. A lot of times I'll use 2 throw rods and a pivot to latch that down, and it takes a lot of time and work. So I had a sleeve, and I've done this before. You just take a sleeve and knurl the end of it, insert a steel roller bearing in it, a spring, drill and pin it, and then you have a spring-loaded catch right there. And I'm going to tack weld this in place, and if this works out good, it'll save the trouble of having that latch. I just want to make sure it's going to stay shut when it's down. And this will be adjustable. I can change the tension in the spring in it, and then I can add on the strike, depending on what it is. I don't want to make it too hard to get out, but I want it pretty stout when it snaps down. So yeah, you can see how that works. Just a sleeve I had, drilled, pinned it, put a spring in there, knurled the end, and put a roller bearing in the end of it. And I'll put that right on the end of this, like that. And then hopefully that'll do it, and then we can move on.